Now, in keeping with last week's Marine Corps theme, we're doing two birds in one stone today. So we're talking about the M45a1 at home, the Tisas Raider. I feel like I'm gonna probably start developing a bit of a reputation for this because this is the third Tisas 1911 I have talked about. And I'm probably gonna talk about the Musak, and I've got one more that I'm probably gonna talk about. And I'm just gonna get like the Turkish 1911 reputation. I do have more expensive 1911s, I swear. I have a Staccato. I have my World War I original Colt. I've got newer production Colts. I've got Springfields. We'll get to them. We'll get to them. I've talked about Tisas so much because I really like what they're doing as a company. Companies don't make clone pistols. That's so rare. And the fact that they're making clone 1911s and they're making so many different ones of them. They're making M45a1 clones. They're making original M45 clones. They're making Musak clones. I mean, the Delta Force clones. World War II 1911 clones. So you don't have to go and spend $2,000 to $3,000. I understand that a lot of people don't have that kind of money to spend on guns. Well, I might spend that much money on guns, and it is my primary hobby. A lot of people don't. So, you know, for something like $500-600 for something like this, and they can have an M45a1, I think that is a fantastic option. So I just like their company. I like what they're doing. So of course I am going to talk about them because it's something that the average viewer, they can go and buy and they can enjoy themselves. You don't have to have $2,000 to $3,000 to go buy a mediocre Colt M45a1, and you could have gotten a much nicer 1911 in the same price range. Fuck up the reload. And just so I can clear the air a little bit more, Tisas, SDS, Military Armament Corp, they don't know who I am. I'm some small fry idiot in the desert with too many guns and too many kit. They didn't pay me or give me anything for this. I bought these guns with my own money. Every gun I've showed off, I've either bought with my own money or I borrowed from a friend to put together, and that's it. So they don't pay me to shill for them, but I do like I like what they're doing. Now, it's no secret that I love 1911s. I think they are a fantastic service platform. So I'm going to continue to talk about 1911s for my particular autism so I can justify why I own so many different ones of them, and will continue to buy them, of course. Now, naturally, for the Tisas Raider, we have our clone of the Colt M45a1 pistol that was issued in the Marine Corps. Now, this is not really going to be more so, it's not really going to be about the M45a1, probably going to be more so towards this particular Raider pistol while this guy drives by in his fucking dirt bike. Okay, now again, just to harp on it again, this is a good option to look at just from a pure price perspective. Now, the Colt M45a1 is no longer a regular production gun. They do occasionally come out of the custom shop from what I've seen, but it is worth for me noting, the Colt M45a1, that's a production 1911. That is not a semi-custom gun. That is not a full custom gun. That is a standard production grade 1911. And on the secondary market, $2,000 to $3,000. It's very hard for me to justify spending that much 1911 money on a production grade 1911 versus getting something like the Springfield Professional Custom, the FBI 1911, which is a full custom 1911 and costs almost the same amount of money. That's very hard for me to justify. I've spent a lot of money on guns, but something like that for something that is not amazing, it's hard for me to look at. So I looked at this instead. And that's probably where the majority of people are coming in on this, looking at this, because it is a affordable option. It is still in production, and you get the same look, feel, fit, probably a little bit better fit and finish, to be honest, than the original Colt. The Colts had problems with that. For an M45. Now, yes, I know the M45a1 is no longer in service, that it has since been retired from the Marine Corps, and with that, the last bastion of the 1911 may be going away. Probably maybe a couple, one or two sitting in an armory somewhere, 1911s, but not really used anymore. Replaced with the Sig Sauer M18 handgun, as well as the Glock 19. series of pistols in the rolls for people who were issued these kinds of things. Unfortunate for this to kind of be the last bastion of the 1911, given that it did not have the best reputation. But it is what it is. And hell, we can still go out, we can still buy it, we can still enjoy shooting it ourselves. Now, as far as replicating the look of the earlier M45A1, these have done a fantastic job. Now, it's worth noting the earlier M45A1, which will typically be the Cerakoted ones and they'll have USMC on them, are different from the later M45A1s, which are more of a bronze PVD finish and they don't have USMC on them. The Marine Corps, they used both guns that were marked for USMC and guns that were not. During the production, Colt asked them to stop putting that on the slides of those pistols. Now, for this particular gun, they've gone to kind of replicate more of the earlier one, which was the Cerakote finish. Ironically, the Colts had a lot of problems with their Cerakote finish that the Tisas pistols do not. They have replicated the grips that came on those guns, kind of a G10 style, tan, kind of very aesthetically pleasing. They have Novak compatible sights. These aren't real Novak sights. Obviously, these pistols are made in Turkey, but you could always replace them with real Novaks if that is what you are looking for. The Colts would have come with those. And then they have done a fantastic job replicating the grip safety, the ambi safety. Now, typically, I have said before, and I will continue to say, I do not like ambi controls on any of my guns, including my 1911s. I find as a right-handed shooter, it typically interferes with my firing grip. Although I find the ambi safety on this one to be very comfortable because of how cut away it is. So this one does not interfere with my firing grip. Still, if it was up to me, I would probably take it off and remove it. But, you know, it's worth talking about. To replicate the Colt, we have a non-adjustable long type trigger. I don't know why they just wouldn't go with like a Videcki style, but whatever. That's what the Marine Corps wanted, apparently. And our enhanced combat hammer on here, as well as faithfully replicating the Colt railgun frame. So this will fit in the exact same holsters that the Colt 1911s are compatible with. Okay, we're gonna get into my equipment and what I am wearing for this video as my Marine Force Recon gear. Now, to go along with my Marine Force Recon rifle, I of course need the Marine camo. So I'm wearing the Desert Marpat Frog uniform, the combat uniform, which is honestly a very good design and a very comfortable uniform. This has been so far ahead of the Army's combat uniforms for over 10 years. It's a joke almost at this point. For my plate carrier, I am wearing an ABS. Now, this is an issued plate carrier in MARSOC, but it is not in Marine Force Recon. Although Cry carriers such as the SBC, the JPC, the ABS are very commonly private purchased and can often be seen in photos, as well as other carriers like the Faro. The list goes on. So on the front, I've just got an STAC triple. These are probably my favorite mag pouches that exist as far as specifically for AR-15 mags. If you're only looking to hold AR-15 mags, STAC is a fantastic option. I've got a bit of a mixed bag here of Cry pouches and some Spiritus Systems pouches. I was taking maybe trying out, seeing if I might like to use them in the future. My radio pouch is made by Tier Tactical. It's one of their older legacy designs. I don't like it a whole lot, but it's something I had laying around, so fuck it, might as well use it. On my back, I have the Cry Precision flat pack zip-on thing that came out with the JPC R series. Just something I was trying out versus the Haley Strategic flat pack. Honestly, I think I probably still like the Haley one a little bit better. This one's just a little bit convenient because it can zip on instead of having to molly directly. For my belt, I have one of the Ronin Tactical Gunfighter belts on. And this is made up mainly with Haley Strategic stuff. I have two Haley Strategic mag pouches. I've got an STAC 1911 pouch up front for my M45A1 Raider. This is simply because Haley Strategic doesn't make a single stack mag pouch, so I'm using the STACs. Then I have the Haley Strategic Blowout Kit. Doesn't have anything in it for right now because I'm lazy. I'm not taking it out of my normal gear. And the Haley Strategic Tourniquet Pouch is also on my back. I think they're very, very good designs and definitely something that you might want to consider if you're looking for various medical gear that you can put either on your belt or your plate carrier. Now, I am going to say I'm a little biased. I am friends with the guys over at Haley Strategic. I have known them and Travis for a number of years, and I just can't help it. I like their products. I like what they are doing. For my holster, which I have my Tisas Raider in, my M45a1 at home, I am using the Fulster floodlight holster. So it's basically a universal holster that you can change the spacers in, and it indexes off an X300. I kind of got tired of having to buy Safarilands individual for every single guns I own, and then they're not even compatible across different types of 1911s. Like ones for the Colt 1911s won't fit ones for the Kimber 1911s because they have different rail patterns. It just got annoying to me. I also don't have the Marine Corps M45a1 holster. I was not able to find one prior to making this video. So this is what we're going with. I think this is a good option if you've got more than one handgun. You can simply swap X300s between them. Or if you're like me and you've got a dozen different X300s, you can just drop your handgun in. And if you need to, it's simply just undoing these screws, changing out a rubber insert, and then redoing them, and that's it. And you have a fairly good universal option for your handgun. My Pig Alpha gloves on. I like these a lot. I've worn these in a number of videos. I really like the Pig Alphas, the Pig Deltas, and the gun gloves. I think those are probably some of the three best that you can get. Although go with what you want, mechanics are still a very good option. And for my knee pads, I've got the Arc'teryx combat knee pads that unfortunately are no longer made anymore, but I think these were some of the best add-on knee pads that were on the market. Of course, not quite as good as the Cry, where they're just integrated into your pants. Definitely better than the Patagonia integrated into your pants, but these are a fantastic option. You can still find these Arc'teryx knee pads floating around online, and if you're looking for a set, I can't recommend these enough. Now for my helmet, I am simply wearing a Mitch helmet with the Marine Corps Marpat cover on it, the Narodos Universal Shroud, and then I've got a Rhino 2 arm on it. Not specifically a Marine Corps thing, the Rhino 2, but whatever. I had the arm, I'm gonna use it. And for my communications, I of course have my Comtac 3s on, which are mainly just for protecting my hearing at this point. So actually one of the cool things about Tisas 1911s for their various models is most of them they make in both 9mm and 45 ACP. So you can pick the caliber that you're looking to shoot your gun in. This particular pistol today is actually chambered in 9mm, not 45. Now I wanted the 45 version, and the reason I don't have it is I went to my local gun store, they had the 9mm one. So I figured, hey, I don't have a 9mm 1911, I'll pick it up, I'll try it out, I'll see what it's about. At the time, I've shot about 500 rounds through this gun, so not a whole lot, but so far it's been a pretty decent shooter. I have since gotten more 9mm 1911s, and they are extremely enjoyable to shoot. They have very little recoil with these full steel platforms, especially if you have the Surefire on here. That's gonna eat up those recoil quite a bit. I've used a variety of different magazines with this gun. It comes with like these black magazines. I'm not really sure who makes these. They're definitely not the Metgar ones. I have used the Metgar 9mm 1911 mags. I've used the Colt, the Wilson Combats, and the Chip McCormick's, and all of those fit and function perfectly fine for me. I would probably say the Wilsons are the best, but they are also the most expensive, so it's worth you deciding how much money you want to spend on these. Typically 9mm 1911 mags can be a little bit more finicky than the 45 ACP ones. You gotta remember, they are adapting a 45 ACP frame to use a shorter 9mm round. So it's really just a system issue, not necessarily something without. The staccatos and the 2011s are kind of similar because with those magazines, because those are 45 ACP frames that were adapted to then use 9mm. So it's a bit of the same issue even with the 2011 platform pistols. Touching on the magazines a little bit, your flush fits are either gonna be 9 or 10 rounds. And nobody makes extended base plates. Kind of like the Chip McCormick Power 10s for the 1911, the 45. I wish they made extended base plates so I could get maybe 12 or 13 rounds, but they don't exist. I looked quite a bit and just unfortunately not on the market for any of the magazine variations. So maybe there's a market there. Certainly 9mm 1911s have gotten more popular, especially with offerings like this from Tisas. Colt has started to produce more 9mm 1911s, other companies, so that might be a market for something. Now, usually on my 1911s, I do like to replace the slide release with the Wilson Combat Extended slide release. That is my preferred. I like that on most pistols, and it's easy enough that I could simply put the original back on if I wanted to. Now, you can't do that with 9mm 1911s. The 9mm 1911s actually use a slightly different slide release than the 45 ACP ones, so you have to get a 9mm extended slide release, which Wilson Combat does not make. They make a semi-extended, they don't make the full extended one that I like, so I opted to go with the standard slide release, which I just have to hit it with my left hand. I can't hit it with my right hand like I can with the extended, but that's not a huge deal. I don't really think it slows you down in reloading that much. But worth noting that this part is a little bit different than your standard. If you're out there looking for one, take note of it. I will say the slide release protrudes the frame, the pin quite a bit. It's definitely something you can notice right here. It's not cut away. That area is not recessed like it might be on some other 1911s. So you're definitely gonna feel it when you have your finger on the frame. Just gotta be careful of it. You might, if you're cycling the pistol or something, accidentally push that out. I could definitely see that as being a possibility. So just something to take note of on the side of the frame right here. Now, of course, there is an issued M45a1 Safariland holster, which is using the SLS, the hood. I don't know why they didn't make it an ALS holster, especially that this gun didn't come around until the 2010s, but whatever. I don't have that. That's kind of hard to find these days. If you have an M45a1 holster, maybe get in contact with me. I'm not going to overpay for it though. So I have opted for the Floodlight Filster holster. Covered it probably in the gear section. Just going to take a look at it again. A great option if you are looking for a universal holster that is just going to index off an X300. Now, most of the time when we see M45A1s, they typically are going to have the issued X300s on them. I can't even really think of a time I've seen it in photos without a flashlight on it. So this is a fantastic option for me. It is Coyote, it blends with my kit. I could see it definitely being used, and it just goes right in. There's no active retention. That is kind of one of the downsides of this system. So it is a level 1 holster, not a level 2 or 3. There's nothing to retain it other than just the pressure of the holster. Probably not something you could hold upside down and really shake like an ALS Safariland. But it works for my purposes. I'm not jumping out of airplanes or helicopters or onto boats or anything, so I think this is going to be perfectly sufficient for my purposes, as well as something I can use again on my other handguns. I got it originally when I was doing the video for the M17 pistol. I was trying it out initially then, and I've used it more and more over the past year. And I like it quite a bit, actually. I think this has become a solid option. I've used it in a couple of local competitions that I've shot, and it's just something that's worked good for me. I think if you're looking for an option, you don't want to spend, you know, $100 to $200 on various holsters, you got more than one handgun, take a look at the Floodlight Filster. It's not a bad option. No, you're not schizophrenic. The background and scenery has changed. Unfortunately, sometimes technical issues happen, so I'm forced to finish this one up in the studio. But regardless, what has not changed is that the M45A1 at home is actually really good. The Tisas Raider is something I can really only say positive things about in my experience, in my use case. Even it being a 9mm version, which typically are known as being unreliable compared to 45 ACP versions of the 1911. I've had a couple of misfeeds with this gun, but that was due to magazines. I know it was not due to the gun. Again, 9mm 1911 magazines can be finicky. I'm using a variety because I only have so many. The Wilson Combats are kind of expensive. I only have 2 of those. So I gotta make do with what I have. And they're not all bangers. But this is really something that you should take a look at if you're interested in Marine Corps firearms, or how the kind of 1911 has evolved over its history in use with the United States military. I think it's really cool because there's not many weapon systems that you can take a look at other than maybe the Browning 50 caliber that have served continuously in a military for over 100 years. That's really a testament to the 1911 design and the platform. I don't think other platforms designed around the same time probably would have lasted as long as the 1911. The 1911, there's just something about it.
that is so conducive to shooting. It's almost like John Browning designed it kind of right the first time, right? Where this grip angle is just so perfect. I know like there's all kinds of companies that try to add palm swells and whatever to the back, and I hate that. Honestly, I like just the straight grip angle. The 1911 is a gun that in your hands, it just feels good. It just feels like a natural pointer, a natural shooter. That's what's so great about these systems, just how they feel, how they shoot, and how, because of its design, it was able to maintain that legacy. Now, as I did mention earlier, of course, the 1911 with the Marine Corps M45A1 is no more. We'll talk about that a little bit more when I do a dedicated M45A1 video, if I ever break down and pay the money for one of those things, but goddamn, it's ridiculous and I really don't want to at this point. Maybe if I find a deal. Now, it is kind of wild to go from something like the MUSOC over to this pistol, the MUSOC being a full custom pistol, the M45A1 being a production Colt pistol, and the M45A1 also has the dual recoil system, which I don't really think is anything to write home about. Now, the Tisas Raider does not have that dual recoil system. It has a traditional 1911 style of recoil system, which I don't... The dual probably would have made it more expensive, and it's proprietary, and you don't really need it. I don't really think there's a huge felt difference between shooting a regular 1911 and an M45A1. I have shot them in the past. Nothing crazy, nothing to write home about. Honestly, I prefer a full-length guide rod, just adding more weight to the pistol to help tame that recoil. There is some kind of boomer FUD lore that full-length guide rods make pistols more accurate. They don't. They just add weight to the gun, and they help you control the recoil a little bit better. That's all hearsay, FUD lore, whatever. I think something like that on this pistol would have served it a little bit better. Granted, full-length guide rods on 1911s do make them a little bit harder to take apart. You have a little bit more spring tension. So I'm just gonna go with dealer's choice. It's something that I like, but not every 1911 enthusiast finds them to be necessary to put onto their guns. I just would have liked to have seen Colt go further with this M45A1 design. I mean, for Tisas' part, they did a fantastic job replicating the M45A1. In fact, they made the finish better than the original, so I can't really knock them. Again, trying to focus a little bit more on the Tisas, but it is hard for me to not talk about the Colt in comparison. That's what this is, of course, a clone of. Now, one thing that does kind of bother me, trigger me a little bit, and it's not really an issue with the gun, is how come in every unit they bought black Surefire X300s? It's not like tan Surefire X300s didn't exist when this gun was adopted. Tan X300s do exist, and they bought black for their tan guns. The same thing happens now with the M18, where they don't buy, it's a tan pistol, but they buy these black flashlights. Whatever, that's a minor autism triggering moment for me. It doesn't really matter a whole lot. You still get the same performance with the excellent Surefire products. And the X300 is by far the best full-size handgun light you can have on your pistol, hands down. But for now, I'll probably cover more 1911s in the future. But for now, that was the Tisas Raider. Fantastic pistol if you're looking. Can't go wrong with one of these.